First off, I'd like to thank everyone for their support in the channel. We're up to over 600 subs already and growing fairly quickly, which means I should probably put a little more effort into this. We'll start that today with my first official job guide. Unsurprisingly, it's for the job I love most, Samurai. I'll cover 4 main aspects I feel are most critical when starting out, all the way up to being prepared to do the hardest content on Samurai. First off, I'll discuss the first steps you need to take if you eventually want to be ready for harder endgame content like Omen bosses, Master Trials, intense, very difficult Ambuscade, and Dynamis Wave 3. Second, I'll cover the situations Samurai are often required to cover, mainly Fudo spam machine versus multi-step spam machine. Third, I'll briefly go over what I think is currently the best possible gear for Samurai, then highlight some of my most important sets that I use most frequently. And last, I'll cover what buffs you should expect from your party to judge if the event you are doing has any chance of success. Getting started can often be very intimidating, as it should be. In most cases, it will take hundreds of hours to be ready to dominate the hardest content. But most of the fun is in the journey, and everyone has to take those first steps eventually. Now, I won't go into great detail on this aspect, because in all honesty, I've never actually started fresh on Samurai. What I can tell everyone is where they need to be at by the end of their journey to be ready for endgame content. I'll leave you guys to figure out how to get there, but I do highly recommend some of the amazing guides on BG Wiki and videos from other YouTubers out there to get you on the right track. Starting off with Ambuscade Mantles, you'll want at least 3, TP, Weapon Skill, and Magic Evasion. These are a huge upgrade compared to other mantles in the game and should be finished as soon as possible. Next we have Ambuscade Gear. The entire Flama set is very good for TP and even Weapon Skill if you are currently lacking key Weapon Skill damage gear. The full +2 set will get you very far. For Omen, the entire Artifact +2 and +3 set is amazing for Samurai. Put a priority on finishing hands for TP, legs for Weapon Skill, body for DT, and head for idling. Make sure to get the Seekers and Wings of the Goddess mission rewards as they are very good for Samurai weapon skills. You'll need Valor's head, feet, and hands to augment for weapon skill also. Last, we have job points. The good news is Samurai has one of the most incredible SU3 armor sets in the entire game waiting for it with the Ken set. The bad news is that getting 2100 job points is going to be a nightmare of a grind, akin to old school 75 cap era XP grinding. I highly suggest taking a look at the Apex guide on BG Wiki to see if you are ready for it. If not, Escher zones are a good place to start. The second core aspect I'd like to go over is what is Samurai expected to do and how does it do it? The simple answer is that it is expected to do a lot of damage in 2 key ways depending on the situation. Probably the most common of all, we have pure Fudo spam. Fudo spam is most commonly done when your group has more than one person weapon skilling and it's not worth the time or effort to set up a group skill chain. I find myself spamming Fudo in quite a few events these days. Most notably, Dynamis Divergence's Wave 2 and 3 NMs and Mega Bosses. As you can see by how fast this sneak goes down, sometimes it is just faster to spam Fudo if the conditions are right. Now to what truly makes Samurai special. No other job in Final Fantasy XI has the tools and weapon skills synergy to pull off the kinds of powerful multi-step skill chains with ease that Samurai can. To start things off, let's go over a few things that make Samurai the king of multi-step skill chains. First off, it has job traits nearly custom tailored to help succeed in pulling off a multi-step skill chain. Store TP and Zanshin, enhanced by merits and job points to ensure you get TP fast enough, and then skill chain damage to increase the damage of all your skill chains. Second, it has job abilities like Meditate that further enhance the ability to successfully pull off skill chains with ease. Third, it has access to the Ken +1 set, which has multi-attack to help pull off skill chains faster, magic evasion to evade all of the annoying status down effects that normally stop DDs from closing skill chains, and as icing on the cake, it has very high subtle blow to severely limit the amount of TP moves mobs can use, further reducing the chances of getting enfeebled. There are a few core situations where multi-step skill chaining is either more damage or just safer or easier to pull off. Take the new Trove BC fight or the Shadow Lord Master Trials. It is certainly possible to coordinate a skill chain with the core rune, but that would increase its TP spam even further and make the fight significantly more deadly and annoying to pull off. With Chem plus 1's crazy high magic evasion and stacking some magic evasion buffs, Sam can achieve near immunity to enfeebling in many fights without the use of 1-hours. The 3 most common multi-step skill chains you should be using on Samurai are the 3-step, 4-step, and 5-step. The 3-step is Showa Inukasha, which makes light, and Fudo to close double light or radiance with Aeonic with the proper aftermath level. The 4-step is Fudo Inukasha, which makes fusion, then Shoha to make light, and Fudo to finish for double light or radiance with Aeonic. Note that this will always make radiance regardless of aftermath level when using Aeonic. The 5-step is Showa into Fudo for distortion, then Kasha for fusion, Showa for light, and Fudo to finish for double light or radiance with Aeonic. Same as the 4-step, this will always make radiance with Aeonic. Out of these 3, I recommend the 4-step the most. I find it to be the perfect balance of both damage and size. The 3-step often lacks the damage and is only ideal in very short fights where what you are killing will be dead before you get a higher step skill chain off. The 5-step is a little too long and usually not needed to hit the 99k cap, while missing 1 hit is much more punishing than the shorter step skill chains. The Soul Flare month of Ambuscade perfectly illustrates everything I just covered. Samurai has enough magic evasion to resist its AoE dispel move, Samurai has enough subtle blow to limit its TP moves to only a handful, Samurai's beyond ridiculous TP gain is enough to overcome its potent TP spikes, and Samurai can output massive DPS on its own via the 4-step Radiant skill chain. I believe this was the only posted working melee strategy for the Soul Flare Ambuscade, and it's only possible with Samurai. I bet by now you're thinking Samurai looks super OP, and while yes, it technically is, you need a ton of gear to make it work. And about that, there's good and bad news. The good news is that the vast majority of Samurai's best gear is buyable or upgraded via buyable materials from the auction house. This includes Rima weapon and armor upgrade materials, SU3 gear, and the Dynamis Divergence neck. The bad news is it's going to cost you an astronomical amount, but nonetheless, here's some of what I consider to be Samurai's best sets for the situations I often use them in. Prepare to empty your wallet. First, a word on accuracy sets. This will widely vary from player to player based on their gear and job point progress. I highly recommend players make their own accuracy sets of at least 3 and up to 5 levels. The general rule is to take your highest DPS accuracy set and record its accuracy. Then put on the most possible accuracy you have, subtract your highest DPS set's accuracy from the highest accuracy set you have, and divide it by how many sets you want to make. This will give you a number to aim for each incremental set you make. I personally use 3 core TP sets for Samurai TP, Magic Evasion for mobs constantly spamming enfeebles like Amnesia, Slow, or Paralyze. This set has massive Magic Evasion while still maintaining very high DPS. Standard DPS melee set. This is my all-purpose DPS TP set where I'm not as worried about getting enfeebled, but I still want to maintain a decent amount of Magic Evasion. Last, we have the maximum possible DPS set. This set offers the most DPS, but loses massive amounts of Magic Evasion. I use this set for mostly fodder mobs and Zergs where SP buffs are being used to make up for the lack of Magic Evasion. On to weapon skill gear. Now, this set is going to widely vary from player to player based on how lucky you are with augments. For taupe augments, the general rule is that you want as close to 15 strength for weapon skill damage as possible, and any accuracy and attack is icing on the cake. For fern augments, you will need at least 10 strength, 5 weapon skill damage to match taupe's augments. For dark matter, you will need at least 7 weapon skill damage to beat out taupe and fern augments, with anything higher being god tier. This will probably end up being your most expensive set to optimize, but is arguably the most important because Fudo benefits so much from strength and weapon skill damage, and Fudo will account for so much of your overall DPS. The stronger Fudos you have, the more improvement you'll see. You'll also need a magic accuracy set to land a Geas defense down, but luckily that entire set is just your normal Fudo gear mixed in with Flamma plus 2, as Samurai really doesn't have that many magic accuracy options. Once again, I highly suggest checking out the BG Wiki Samurai Guide for more details like which augments to take and ideal progression while working your way up to perfect gear sets. The beauty of Final Fantasy XI is that you can still beat a lot of content even with less than optimal buffs and job setup, but this usually means a lot more risk involved. What I'll try to outline is what buffs you should expect to have depending on the content you plan to do that will ensure the highest chance of success and the least amount of wasted time. The three categories of content I will go over are easy content, entry-level content, and endgame content. First, we have the easiest content, which there's a lot of. I classify this content as anything you can do solo with trusts. Doesn't mean it is the most optimal way, but still possible nonetheless. Examples include Abyssia, Old Dynamis, Domain Invasion, many Tier 1 Escha NMs, Skirmish, Omen card farming, CP farming, and very easy Ambuscade. As for your trust selection, your basic goal is to make sure you can maintain capped haste as long as possible. Any extra attack you can get is a bonus. The optimal trust layout combined with landing a Geas is very potent. Next we have entry-level content. This content is still fairly easy, but often requires help from other characters due to either accuracy issues or they are just too deadly for trust to survive. Some examples include Tier 2 and 3 Escha and Ryzen NMs, Delve, Vagary, and high-tier BCN MMs. This is the point in the game where you need to either start making friends to do higher tier content with, or start multi-boxing. Speaking of multi-boxing, these are the party/multi-box setups I'd recommend. For dual boxing, Samurai and Geomancer. Combined with Trust, Geo can still fill many roles, from easily capping your PDAF, giving you some extra accuracy, or going full defensive mode with Vex and Attunement, all while supporting with extra heals and Nas, make Geo the all-around best choice to duo with. For tri-boxing, Samurai, Geomancer, and White Mage. You could argue Bard here, but I think White Mage's current utility with heals and bar spells make it a better choice. Counting on your trust for cures usually ends up failing. For quad boxing, Samurai, Geomancer, White Mage, and Bard. This setup opens the doors for a lot of the harder content. Bard will cap your accuracy and haste with ease, which will let your Geo focus on just capping your PDF. For quint boxing, add in a core, and now you have the extra DPS power to really tear through content with Samurai and Chaos/Fighters role. For six boxing, add a rune to tank and provide even more defensive buffs, and you can take on even Master Trials and the new Trove BC. Finally, we have endgame content. This is content you will almost always need 6 or more characters on optimal jobs to clear reliably. Examples include Dynamis D Wave 3, Omen bosses, very difficult intense Ambuscade, Master Trials, Tier 4 Aeonic NMs, and Bubbly Bernie. Generally, you'll always want the same 3 buffing supports in your party, Bard, Geo, and Corsair. Bard is there to cap your haste and accuracy with Honor March, Victory March, and 2 Madrigals. Coupled with using Sushi and having accuracy swaps ready, you will, for the most part, never have to worry about accuracy being an issue. In Alliance content, you will often see a second Bard being used to provide carols in a Zerg situation. This is especially helpful on Wave 2 Dynamis D NMs and Aeonic NMs. Geo is there to basically cap your PDF. Blaze of Glory and EA Frailty is extremely potent. Unfortunately, many NMs nowadays are resisting Frailty, so you'll have to use more than one source of defense down. Corsair, while an amazing melee DPS itself, is there for Samurai role. The second role will be situational depending on if you still need attack to cap PDAF, but if you don't, Fighter's role is the best DPS role unless you are multi-step skill chaining, then you'll want to use allies. In closing, with enough time and effort put into your Samurai, you will not be disappointed with the results you see. I believe Samurai is one of the more versatile DDs in the game, with the ability to be useful in many different situations. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know this didn't cover literally every aspect of Samurai, but I hope to do more in the future. If you have any suggestions for future content or questions, feel free to leave a comment below.